Good evening. My name is Robert Boyce. I'm the president of Old Towne Preservation Association. In February 22nd of 1986, 6 Old Towne residents met at a booth at Watson's Drugstore to formulate a plan to try to save what we call today Old Towne Orange from destruction. What came out of that meeting was the Old Towne Preservation Association. Tonight, our broadcast is coming from the City Council chambers, the City Hall, which is in the heart of Old Towne. And now I'm excited to welcome all of the in-person guests and those that are watching on Channel 6 and on Facebook to the Old Towne Preservation Association's 8th Annual State of Old Towne Forum. I'd also like to welcome and introduce our participants in the forum panel tonight. Dan SLATER, who's the mayor of the city of Orange, former president of Old Towne Preservation Association. ARIANNA Barrios, who is our District 1 City Council member and Mayor Pro-TEM of the city, and the daughter of an Old Towne Preservation Association founder, Russ Barrios. Tom KISELA. Tom is our former police chief and now city manager of the city of Orange. Police Chief Dan Adams. Police chief of the city of Orange and a proud, nearly 35-year member of the Orange Police Department. And ALISA DRISCOLL, who is the VP of Community Relations for Chapman University, and in July she will take the chair as the Chamber of Commerce chair. Welcome all. Tonight we'll be asking questions of our panel. Questions were submitted by Old Towne Preservation Association members, by the OTPA board, and from our audience. So let's get started. The first question is for Mayor SLATER. You've been on the office for a few months now. How do you like the job?
Oh, thank you for asking. I am absolutely in my element. I'm loving the job. I'm loving it mainly because we're getting a lot done. And just to show that, we've been spending a lot of late nights at council meetings. We went to 2 council meetings a month, and but yet we still, our council meeting went in closed door session on Tuesday night till midnight. And so as you've seen, though, we are getting a lot done. There's still more to do, but sometimes bureaucracy moves a lot slower than we'd like, but we're grinding it out, and we're going to get a lot more done, so stay tuned.
Very good, thank you. Next question is for Mayor Pro-TEM Barrios. This came from the audience. Since you live across the street, what is going on with the conversion of the First Presbyterian Church building into offices and a restaurant?
That's a very good question. I'm not sure where it is in the process right now. I know it certainly worries me and my neighbors because it's the first time, at least in my lifetime living where I live, that Maple Street will be activated in that way, having commercial right there on that part of Maple. But I know the Cottles are here, or at least one of the Cottles are here. So I would, if the person who asked that question is the audience, you can certainly ask him afterwards. But my understanding is that the bottom floor will be converted into a restaurant space along Orange Street. There will also be like a small market, kind of like a corner store kind of element. The top floor would be office buildings, office suites, I'm sorry. So that's my understanding of the project in its totality at this time.
Very good, thank you. My next question is for City Manager KISELA. Before I give you your question, I'd like to congratulate you on being promoted from acting city manager to our full city manager now.
Thank you very much. Let's see how I do tonight. So,
Well, as we can all see, there's some work going on in the Plaza Park right now. I wonder if you could update us on the Plaza Park Safety Enhancement Program.
Sure. So last year, Council asked Public Works to come up with a safety enhancement for the plaza to obviously mitigate some of the drunk drivers that have been driving through and passing through the plaza. So we allocated some money, which, if you didn't know, about 2 weeks ago, Chairman of the Board of Supervisors, Don Wagner, and our district supervisor, Mr. Sarmiento, donated approximately $225,000 towards the safety enhancement. Currently, it should have been done by now, but because of weather delays, and obviously we had another one today, we're expecting it to be finished in about a couple of weeks, give or take. It's going to consist of some bollards that are put into cement and sunk deep that will stop any vehicle from a direct hit into the plaza coming from east, west, north, or south. Then there's going to be a second row of bollards, more decorative, that has a second line of protection. So hopefully with the issues that we've been seeing in the plaza, they will stop. If somebody tries to crash through there, doubtful that it's going to get through.
Very good. Well, that was quite an accident that we all got to see on video. Next question is for Chief Adams. Can you update us give us a rundown on the crime in Old Towne? Is it trending up or trending down?
Well, I am, number one, I'm happy to be here. Thank you. I'm happy to report that crime's trending down in Old Towne. So I just got updated on our stats today, and almost every category that we have, whether it's violent crime or property crimes, almost everything is on a decrease. Residential burglaries went from 29 in 2021 to 20 in 2022. So crime is looking good down here.
Are we experiencing a lot of catalytic converter theft in Old Towne?
That's everywhere. So I don't have the exact numbers for Old Towne on catalytic converter thefts, but unfortunately that's a statewide trend, probably a national trend. So we see that kind of spikes up and down everywhere in the city.
Very good, thank you. And now for our Chapman representative, ALISA. Can you tell us what the exact number of students now enrolled in on the campus here in Orange, Chapman's campus in Orange?
Just wanted to say thank you so much for having Chapman University represented tonight. It's good to be here with all of you to share some updates of what's going on campus. So thanks for that. We learned a lot this year. As you can imagine, before COVID, acceptance numbers could be predicted fairly well, and our formula was fairly reliable. During the pandemic, the acceptance numbers were infinitely more unpredictable, just like the rest of our lives during that time. And this year's numbers came back stronger than anticipated. And to be honest, there's no motivation for Chapman to be over its student cap, as it also causes problems for the university. For example, finding classroom spaces, faculty to actually teach the classes, that sort of thing. So we've taken immediate steps to address the situation. Most notably, we admitted a 14% lower freshman class for this coming year compared to the 2022-2023 year. And this will actually have an impact on overall enrollment because we're planning on smaller classes for the next 2 years, which will even out. I don't have the specific numbers right in front of me, but I would say at about 9,000 students right now on the Orange campus. And I also wanted to make a quick point. I know there's been some confusion because on the Chapman website, it says there's 10,000 students. And I want to clarify that that includes our Rinker Health Science campus in Irvine. Our graduate students there are at about 1,000 students or so.
Okay, so that puts the Orange campus at somewhere in the neighborhood?
About 9,000.
About 9,000,
Yes.
okay.
I'm not the enrollment person, but I believe we're at about 9,000.
Do you know by chance whether that is in line with your specific plan cap, or is it over or under? Do you know?
So our specific plan cap is about 8,700 students under the current specific plan, so we are over by about 350-ish. We're currently in the process of pursuing our next specific plan amendment where we're proposing an increase to 10,500 students.
Okay, very good. Thank you.
Of course.
Now, the next question I'd like to have answered by both Mayor SLATER and Mayor Pro-TEM Barrios. There's been a lot of concern around Old Town to do with what took place at Tuesday's City Council meeting regarding the administrative citation ordinance. The concern that I'm hearing is that can a citywide ordinance exempt laws that have been fought for so long and so hard over the years, i.e. the Old Town Design Standards and the Eichler Design Standards, because some people think that these are aesthetic and design issues. And maybe we're hearing it wrong, maybe what we heard and saw we don't understand. So maybe you could clear that up. Mayor Slater?
First of all, I was remiss. I wanted to introduce a very important new staff member. He is our Community Development Director. He's in charge of all planning, any construction in Old Town, including historical preservation. We're very proud to have him. He's got a historical background. Please stand and introduce Russell Bunham. And I understand he's already met with some board members, and so he's all over it. So our city is the only city in Orange County that has not had an administrative citation program. It's been sorely lacking. We need that program in place to do so many things, deal with illegal sidewalk vendors, for instance, deal with any violations whatsoever to the city codes. The design standards for Old Town are city code, and they're very clear. So any codes that are objective, meaning they are written in law, those will be subject to enforcement with the administrative citation program. I think the confusion perhaps is that things that are maybe more subjective and maybe not so clear, those things would probably be referred back to our historic planner, and then she would appropriately deal with them. But it is my intent, certainly, that any codes that are on the books will be enforced, and they will be enforced by administrative citations. That will not be overlooked.
Yes, thank you, Mr. Mayor. For those of you who know me, or if you don't, or if you watched the meeting last week, my face, you can read everything I'm feeling right on my face. And if you were watching, you saw that I felt the same way. That's exactly how I heard it, and was just, oh no, that we can't do that. That's just not what we can do. So, I know that I made my concerns known. The mayor just let his concerns be known that that is not the intent, and nor would we. I think either of us would fight that pretty hard if that came back. So we've let the city attorney know that that's not the intention. We will not allow that to happen. That will be a fight. And I think what's interesting to note, the mayor just said it, we were the only city without administrative citations. So I just want to give you a little context. When I first got on the council, one of my big things was code enforcement. It still is. And I would just rack my brain. Why aren't we doing a better job on code enforcement? For those of you who haven't met him, we have a wonderful new code enforcement supervisor. He's a supervisor now, right? So he came in as a manager, and we quickly elevated him to a supervisor. He's that good. He was the one who actually brought to the leadership and then to the council that we needed this administrative citation. All we had before were warnings from code enforcement if they came out and looked at anything, and then we had criminal actions. There was nothing in between. And that's why, for those of you who have made complaints or who have talked to me, because many of you have talked to me about why weren't things moving forward, that's why things weren't moving forward. To elevate something to the criminal had to be so egregious, very few things reach that standard. But the administrative citation is, we've talked to you, we've talked to you, we've talked to you, we've talked to you, enough. Now you're going to be cited, and there's going to be a fee when you get cited, and those fees and those citings can be ratcheted up over and over and over again if you don't comply. And they're not meant to be arbitrary. Our rules are our rules. There's nothing wrong with making people follow the rules, and I think that you're going to see a big change with the addition of this tool in the toolbox. It doesn't mean people are automatically or arbitrarily going to go to, here's a citation and a fee. What it means is code enforcement is going to be able to go out, talk to people, give warnings. You have, some latitude there, but then they have now some strong tools to go out and enforce. And that's what we want to see. And what they let us know when we had this original presentation is that it applies across the board. It was brought to us because of street vendors. And some of you have seen those now out in the neighborhoods. It's really interesting. But the state of California, the only tool that the state allowed us to have in order to manage the street vendor, the rise of the street vendors, was you had to have an administrative citation process, and we didn't have one. So that's how it came to us, but it applies to all of our ordinances. So if you are out of compliance with anything that's currently on our books, the administrative citation would apply.
Okay, very good. I think that you sent the whole situation back to staff. Now, that means, I assume, that you'll be having a first reading again? No, there'll be a second reading, and when will that take place? So
the city attorney clarified that we didn't change enough to make it have to start all over. There will just be a second reading, and it will be at the May 9th city council meeting.
Next city council?
May 9th. We have
May
one
9th, okay.
between then, but thanks.
Very good. Okay, well, thank you both for that. I appreciate that. Next question is for our city manager again. We've all been hearing what the city of Huntington Beach is going through with regards to housing requirements set down by the state. Has Orange been given a housing requirement number?
Yes, we do have a housing requirement number. It's called the ARIANNA numbers, Regional Housing Assessment Number. And ours for this cycle, which goes from March 2020 to October 2029, is 3,936 units. They're saying very low income, about 1,067, low 604, moderate 677, above moderate 1,588. Now the challenge with that is Orange is pretty built out, so it's very problematic. I'd like to go into a little bit more of that, but we're in the process of dealing with the state right now, and it would probably not be in the best interest of the city for me to comment anymore in regards to our housing or our housing element.
I don't want to get you in trouble, but is that, in so many words, are you saying that there is an organizational move to try to deal with the state handing down all these housing requirements?
There's a move by us, depending, that we'll find out in the next day or two, which will determine what course of action and we start moving forward on. It's a challenge, I could tell you that, and it's very frustrating for staff, very frustrating for the city of Orange. The state, in my opinion, is stacking the cards against all of us, and it's very problematic.
Seems like there's just a blizzard of laws coming down from the state of California that's kind of encroaching on what has always historically been the purview of the cities.
Absolutely.
Very good. Thank you for that answer. Chief Adams, if you had a wish list for what your department would like to have, what would that list include?
Wow, I'm very fortunate. I'm in my second year as the chief, and our council, former mayor, new mayor SLATER, the current council has been so supportive of our department. I don't even know if I could probably say what a wish list, because I'm so fortunate to have the support where the mayor, we all meet, and whatever you guys need to be successful. So, for me, I'm really into drones right now. I see that drones is the kind of the wave of the future in policing and getting to incidents faster. So it's one thing I'm pushing a little bit more. I know it's it's a technical wish list. It's not necessarily, I'm not up here saying I need, dozens more faster police cars or more police officers. For us, it's equipment, it's technology, it's ways for us to address crime and for us to reduce crime even quicker. That's kind of where I just came back. I actually just flew in this afternoon and then came straight here from a tech conference in Phoenix, where they're talking about better, bigger, more effective and efficient ways to fight crime. So I would say on a wish list, I don't really have a 1, 2, or 3.
Chief, maybe if you could share about the new communication system that's going in.
Well, we're getting a new computer-aided dispatch system, which we haven't upgraded in a long time, and a new records management system. Along with that, we're getting new body-worn cameras. We're getting new cameras for all the police cars, not only to keep our officers safe, but for transparency purposes and just for the overall good of policing our police officers in the community. So that's something big that the council approved for us a couple of years ago. It was the biggest purchase we'd ever made. I think it was over $7 million, and it's something that's going to keep our police department in the high technical standards of what we can do and our capabilities are for probably many years after I'm gone.
Well, speaking for myself, I'm very proud of our Orange Police Department, and I think you've done a wonderful job.
Thank you.
Another question, though, and this is something I think we all consider right now. It says the police support seems to be a political and controversial around the county and the country nowadays. Does the police department feel that it enjoys a strong community support?
Absolutely. Well, I'll tell you, in my first year as chief, I just wanted to kind of figure out how to be a chief, and Tom gave me some great guidance. And then my second year as chief, I jumped right in. I'm now the vice president of the Orange County Police Chiefs and the Sheriff's Association. I got myself on the California Police Chiefs Board of Directors, where I serve on the Law and Legislative Committee, mostly because I'm trying to use the platform, not only locally but statewide, to help people understand the importance of public safety. It's not necessarily law enforcement anymore. We used to be law enforcement, go catch the bad guys. Now it's public safety. We want to be focused on just keeping our communities safe. And I know I can't get political up here, so I have to be very careful about some of the legislation that's authored. That me wearing a suit in a different uniform, I'm definitely talking about, because there's some legislation that does negatively impact public safety. That's out there right now. But as far as, I would say, Orange County, I would say even the majority of California, definitely the city of Orange, the support for the police department, we never had an issue with the defund movement that came. As a matter of fact, immediately when the defund movement started, I think it was the next council meeting, the council did a proclamation or a resolution supporting the police department. So that's how supportive this city, this community, and especially the council is.
Very good.
And
Thank
Mr.
you
Boyce,
so
if
much
I
for
could
that.
say, that's also a big element of that is that so many of our officers traditionally have lived in the community. This is what I think makes, Mr. KISELA a super effective and wonderful city manager for us, but as a police chief, and same with Chief Adams. They're us, they're our neighbors, so we know them well. I mean, everyone knows Dan and I went to high school together, so, and, we don't hold it against you that you went to Villa Park, but that's okay. But I mean, Daddy Vasquez was my officer friendly as a kid. So, that makes a big difference in your connectivity to something like your police department. And it's true of fire, and it's true of a lot of our city staff.
Yeah, can I follow up just a little bit more on that? Just since you mentioned the word connectivity. One thing that I really see an importance with us as the police department, especially after what happened with the defund stuff and the support of police nationally kind of ebbed and flowed, was our community engagement. So actually I just announced last month when I gave my kind of state of the police department here at the council meeting that we created a community engagement bureau. The first time we've ever done it. We used to have one spokesperson for the department. Now we've turned it into a team of 4. And that team of 4 is going to be, I'll say encouraged, but usually they just do whatever I tell them to do. As far as community engagement, everybody at the police department knows that since I'm from here, I was born here, I was raised here, I got married here. I mean, everything for me was in the city of Orange. I lived outside the city for a very short period of time, but community engagement is something that I've really been drawn towards as far as it'll make us more successful. So by creating this unit, we're going to be able to do everything community, whether it's engagement activities, whether it's participating in certain community events. Lieutenant McMullen, who's sitting right here, was a sergeant last week. He got promoted. But I mean, he's part of, he goes... He's actually going to head up this new community engagement bureau, and he goes to chamber events. He's in the community. He's very connected, because I feel that relationships with the community and the connection is so important. So I'm excited that we're creating that. Last year, I'll just give you an example. Last year we did 14 neighborhood watch meetings. This year I challenged them to do 44. I don't know where I came up with that number. And actually they have 16 on the books and 12 planned already. I mean, we're in this just happened a few weeks ago, and they've already scheduled 30. So I want to be way more out there in the community. I want to hear what the community has to say. I want the community to be more engaged with us. And one more last thing. You can cut me off, because I'll just keep going. I don't want to take your time, Mayor. Sorry. We have the biggest Citizens Police Academy class we've ever had. We have 40 people, which I think previously it was 15, 20, 30, and we had to turn people away at 40 just because the room's not big enough. Otherwise, I would have said, I'll take 100. I mean, maybe we'll find a different place to do it next year, but we're doing 2 a year, and I know there's a couple people in here that are in the current one. It's a great class, and I encourage anybody to go to our website and jump on and apply for the next one, because I wish everybody in the city of Orange could participate in the Citizens Police Academy. Sorry, long answer.
No problem. Rather than cut you off, I'm going to give you one more question, and that is, could you tell us what the challenges are that the police department has with regards to the homeless and how you're handling it?
Sure. So at the last council meeting, when I did my report, I talked about how excited I was that we finally have 2 civilian homeless outreach workers that are out in the community now, taking some of the pressure off the police officers, so police officers don't have to go to all those calls, and they're able to go provide resource and use their background and their skills to benefit them to try to get the homeless folks off the street. So that's something we're really excited about. We've gone from anywhere between 8 to 10 full-time police officers basically working on the homeless. So we're able to scale back a little bit. I was able to put 2 officers back in patrol, which helps our regular patrol deployment. But I would say overall in the last year, just analyzing it right now in my head without looking at all the statistics, I would say homelessness, we're doing a good job. I'll just say that. I think downtown, we've done a really good job at the train station, at the train depot, Depot Park. The parks are always a challenge, because that's an easy place for the homeless to hang out. And for some of those that don't want services, we've been working in the San Diego Creek bed, as I know the mayor's seen our work down there. We've made hundreds of arrests. Unfortunately, a lot of them are the same people. A lot of those people don't want the help that we're offering. I mean, we're offering basically anything to help people get out of homelessness. We did have a success story recently where we were able to connect somebody back home. I think it was in Washington. And we were able to help find, I forget who the person that bought the plane ticket was, but as long as we have somebody to actually connect them to, we can do that. We can try to reconnect people with family wherever that may be. So it's a challenge, but I'm seeing positive results. I'm seeing progress, and I know that we're definitely moving in the right direction. And my hope is, because homelessness isn't, it's not illegal to be homeless, right? But we're spending a lot of time with police officers addressing homeless, because I go back to, it's about safety. It's about public safety. We do know that sometimes homeless people do commit crimes. Sometimes the mentally ill homeless people, can commit violent crimes. So we're always going to be involved in it.
Very good. Well, keeping on that subject, Mayor Slater, I wonder if you could tell us what your desires and what the city's plans are with regards to housing the homeless in the city of Orange.
So the courts have ruled that you cannot enforce public loitering laws unless you can provide beds. And so my initiative, and I have the support of the entire council, is that we're going to build a homeless shelter. And therefore, not only can we help people get into the system, but we can actually then enforce our no camping and no loitering laws. And Placentia, for instance, they opened up a homeless shelter, and I just met with the city manager, and I just met with their mayor and city manager. I said, are you enforcing your no camping and no loitering laws now that you have a facility? He said, absolutely. and their homeless situation has gone like that. So, you know, and for those who won't accept help, and is that element, they will be cited or arrested, and they will be dealt with. But we're not going to have people hanging out in the city of Orange and a home-free lifestyle anymore. But we've got to put the missing link in place, and that is a homeless shelter. And I feel good about that too, because there's a lot of people that truly do need help, and I want to offer that first, always. However, there's also some good news. Since Mary's Kitchen was replaced by what we're calling the HRC, or the hub, at the same site, they've had tremendous success, and I don't recall the most recent number, but perhaps our city manager can elaborate on exactly how many did you last year that we've actually taken out of homelessness in the last year?
Sorry, I don't have that number off the top of my head. The Mayor Pro-Tem, mate.
I believe it was 127, which is a 40% increase from last year. So a tremendous, tremendous success over what we were, and that's, you know, to TD, that's to the workers, that's the volunteers. It's amazing.
So we're moving in the right direction, and we're just going to keep working at it, and I think we're going to be successful.
Well, this question might be a little premature. Have you narrowed down to any particular sites for the shelter?
Yes. So I can talk about that, certainly.
You're the mayor.
That's right. Still getting used to it. So we actually looked at some buildings that are available in the industrial area, and we could buy an existing building. It's basically the walls, but we can put in all the intended improvements. Or another option that has been presented to us, and I think we're going to move in that direction, is we already have a location. It's 40,000 square feet. It's over by a police station. That's where the current hub is working out of. That's where Mary's Kitchen was. For a lot less money than buying a building and making it into a homeless shelter, we can actually build our own shelter exactly the way we want. We can make it 2-story. We can put medical upstairs. So that is the direction we're moving in. We're making plans in that regard. Once we have a plan in place, and which should be quite soon, and we've got a lot of homeless experts working with us on that, then we can go out and seek funding, because quite frankly, the city doesn't have the funds to build such a shelter. It's going to probably be in the neighborhood of $3 or $4 million at least. So we're hopeful that we can go out and get grant funding for that, and there is a lot of funding out there from state, county, many federal levels. So we're hopeful we'll be successful in that regard and get that homeless shelter built.
Great. Thank you so much for that.
Can I follow up
Chief?
on that? Can I just say something real quick? On this this topic, which a lot of people don't realize, if you have a shelter, or housing is the only way really to end homelessness, I think, is, eventually is getting the people housing. And people have to want it. But if you have a shelter, and we use other city shelters, and if people don't want it, we can start enforcing those ordinances that we haven't been enforcing since we were sued many years ago. And I think that agreement is still, we still abide by the agreement that was handed down by the federal court. Then we can arrest people, like the mayor just said. But one thing that I've been talking with the sheriff about is inside Orange County Jail, which is where we house people because our jail is temporary, they have mental health services. It's the county. The county has mental health services. So it's like, what better place, if they're not going to go and take our resources or go in a shelter that we provide or that we use, we arrest them. I mean, we certainly don't want to arrest people, but if we have to, we have to, because like the mayor said, we're not going to allow this. So we arrest them if they commit some sort of a crime. If we can get them into the county jail, they can get the services that they might need to help them either get rehabilitated or get on their feet, get on their way. But another issue we deal with is legislation that doesn't allow us to keep people in jail. So it's another struggle that we on the law enforcement side continue to battle, is if people deserve to go to jail, we think they should go to jail, and actually in that jail, the sheriff has said they can get help that they need, but then we're dealing on the back end with propositions and other laws that say, oh, they can't stay in jail long enough to get that. So it's a little bit of a tug of war. It's a little bit of a struggle where we want to help, but some people say you can't. So it's kind of it's a really confusing story that I try to tell a lot, just so people can understand what we deal with.
But I also wanted to add too that the governor has now instituted care courts. So, and the County of Orange is one of the 5 pilot sites for care courts. So what does that mean? So it means that if PD picks somebody up and they deem that they need to be, the traditional term 5150, that they do not have the capacity or they're a danger to themselves and others, then you can actually move them through the system, through the care courts, which can then mandate that they go to a facility for mental health, a facility for drug and alcohol abuse, some type of service, and they must do it. They can no longer just say, yeah, I'm out. You know, they have to go through a program. So that is going to be another piece in our arsenal where, you know, while in closing down Mary's Kitchen, as fraught as that was, and it was painful, that was a, you know, kind of an icon in the city, what was happening in terms of the element of kind of being overwhelmed in terms of population was really being borne the brunt of in Old Towne. So with the closing of Mary's Kitchen or the transition to the hub, the numbers of homeless in the area, particularly in the Old Towne area, have gone down dramatically. Part of that was people were being bussed in from other cities and from other counties to go to Mary's Kitchen, and then they would stay. That was unsustainable, and it would overwhelm all of Struck Avenue down to the downtown area into our parks. It was way too much for us to deal with. So now you see a complete shift in that, and it's a big change. So what you're left with, because I get calls about homelessness pretty regularly, is a population that's kind of the most in need. But now we can focus on that population. They are the ones that most need our time and attention and need more help and services.
Right.
Also, in West Orange, the county opened a Be Well Center clinic. If you haven't been to it, it's off, is it Anita? Or?
Yeah.
Should ask you, you know. Anyway, a beautiful facility. Anyone can just walk right in there if they have drug or alcohol or mental illness or know someone with mental illness. Beautiful, beautiful facility. But again, to emphasize what having our own beds would do is recently I talked to the HEART team, which deals with the homeless, and I was told that they had 20 people that they could place, but there's no place to put them. So we have access to a facility at Buena Park and Placentia, and because they're oftentimes full and Orange doesn't have any priority, it's very difficult to get them into these beds. And if we had our own facility, we would have first priority for our own people in Orange.
Okay, thank you. That's great information. Sounds like we're heading in the right direction in a number of ways. I'd like to move on to our Chapman representative, Ms. Driscoll. What percentage of Chapman students live on campus, live in campus housing, and what is the university's goal?
So our goal, and it's a public commitment that we've made to the community, is to house 50% of our undergraduate student population, including all first and second year students, assuming, you know, the students are not living at home and commuting, living with family in some scenario like that. So because we had a larger than average freshman class, we're slightly below 50% right now. However, some of you may have heard that we just purchased a new student housing facility in Anaheim near the Platinum Triangle. It's set to open in the fall of 2024, and we'll have 250 units and upwards of 900 additional beds. So we'll definitely be surpassing that 50% number in fall 2024. Additionally, our COVID protocols have been relaxed, as you can imagine, during the pandemic, and even as most recently as this past fall, we had to set aside a number of beds for isolation for students. And with the relaxation of our COVID guidelines, as well as the reduction of cases, we're going to have more of those beds available for on-campus student housing as well. So it's a good time for student housing, definitely.
Very good. City Manager, can Could you give us an update on something that's near and dear to most of us in Old Town, and that is, what are the plans for the old fire station site?
Sure, there's a couple of plans. The most latest one, I'll say, and I don't want to speak of, this is end up going to be a policy decision, but the most prominent one's probably going to be to demolish the building and turn it into some sort of parking facility, whether it be a parking lot, short-term, and maybe a parking structure, long-term.
Could I add to that?
Go right ahead.
Please be assured that any moves or any planning on that site will have very thorough public input, both from the Old Town Preservation Association and from the community at large, because that's a very important site, and we want to make sure that the community is on board.
Great, we appreciate that. Back to Chapman. Do you think that your specific plan is coming up for review here shortly, and do you think that the campus, the university will adopt a reasonable, what we'd like to hear is a reasonable permanent cap to the student population in the Orange campus?
You know, I can't commit anything tonight, obviously. That's a little bit above my pay grade. I'm sure President Strupa wouldn't appreciate me speaking out of turn in that way. However, I can tell you that, you know, President Strupa has gone on the record as saying that we are pretty landlocked in Old Town Orange. This is the last increase he's personally seeking, and so the $10,500 would be the cap that we're seeking.
So let's say that he does commit as best he can to a cap. I've heard the figure 10,500. Do you think then at that point that we could just safely assume that any additional increase in student population for the university would be happening at your Irvine campus?
Our focus is to grow our enrollment at the Irvine campus. Again, I think we're landlocked. I can't speak for future presidents to come and what their agendas may be, to be completely frank with you, but I can say with this current, you know, presidency, we are capped at the 10,500. But we definitely have a focus on Irvine. That's where a bulk of our growth has been. It's, for those unfamiliar, we have a campus that is for our graduate health sciences, so pharmacy, physical therapy, those programs, and that's kind of the wave of the future in Irvine.
Very good, thank you. Mayor Pro-TEM Barrios. We got a lot of questions from people asking what the city is doing to kind of curtail the ever-increasing number of boarding houses that we have popping up, not only in Old Town, but throughout the city. Can you address that?
I would love to address that. That comes also with the rise of the ADUs. So again, new legislation from the state that made that really easy. It doesn't have to go necessarily through our DRC or through Planning Commission. A lot of the new regulations allow them to be just checked at the desk. Is that how they call it? Like you can just literally walk up, here's what I want to do, which makes it difficult for us. However, that being said, we moved last year, or 2 years ago actually, as a council then to put in some special regulations around that to protect the historic district. Then came back and did an overlay into a wider kind of increasing those protections beyond Old Town. So it actually goes to Collins, Tustin, Levita, and Batavia, I think, maybe down to Maine. No, just Batavia. Because that's where obviously the influx of the ADUs are. But to your point specifically about the boarding houses, I mean, I clearly remember that fight. It has to be like 10, 15 years ago that the boarding house ordinance came forward. A lot of it has to do with a lack of political will up until we got our new mayor, which I'm super excited about. So there was kind of a feeling within City Hall, particularly in our city attorney's office, that we can't enforce our boarding house rules. And the number one reason that was given was because we cannot define what a family is. Well, I just say that's hogwash. So yes, we're not trying to define a family. What we're trying to define is how many people have a lease on a property. So now a lot of the students, don't mean to be mean to students, obviously, or unfairly lump them all in one category, but there'll be a primary lease and everybody else is subletting to them. So when somebody would ask, how many leases do you have on this building? We only have one. Well, come on, give me a break. We're smarter than this. And we can get to the bottom of that. And we can enforce our rules. And not only that, again, the administrative citation, here's the fun thing about that. Up until now, we could only really deal with the renters. The administrative citation lets us go after the owners. And the owners, as many people well know, are very much predatory investment groups who have been snapping up houses, particularly in Old Towne. But if you've been along Cambridge, it's an atrocity what's going on in some of those homes. And there are 15, 18 kids in one house. That also goes to when it's made of fraternity, that, where there's also a social element to it. It's quickly overwhelming our neighborhoods. And there is no reason on God's green earth why we cannot enforce and do something about that. We have now the tools, we have the regulations, now we just need to go do it.
Thank you very much for that.
Please do.
Yeah, we're looking at this, and additionally, the boarding house are in my opinion and our opinion, city attorney, there's a lot of room to tighten that up. There's some parts of it that are ambiguous, that are very difficult to enforce, and it's been problematic. So we're going to start looking at that. We're also going to start looking at, as the Mayor Pro-Tem said, some of these rental homes. I have 7 within 150 feet of radius of my house. They're nothing but a business. You can call it whatever you want, but you have an investor that comes in, and it's a business. He's running a business, renting it to whatever number of kids come in there. So we're trying to get creative within the confines of the law of looking at attaching some regulation, similarly what we do to our short-term rentals. If we can get that, and that's going to add another tool for us. But again, a lot of times going after the kids that are the problems, but nobody goes after the owner. As the Mayor Pro-Tem said, now with the admin sites, we have a mechanism to go there, but we also have a mechanism through hopefully some of this new regulations that are going to come up, potentially a conditional use permit. There's several different ways that we can approach it, but we need to start targeting the business, what I call the business owner, and going after them in that method and hurt him or her where it hurts the most, and that's financially.
In the pocketbook, yes. Okay, great. Well, switching gears completely here. This is a question that came from a member of our audience. It says, is there any proposal from CRNR for increasing our already high trash removal? And I'm going to ask that of our city manager.
Yes, so I did some research, and again, this is through Public Works. We have the 3rd lowest rate in the county for trash removal. We are the lowest for commercial. We do give a commercial. We do give a discount if you have a bin. Part of our deal with CRNR, you get about a 15% discount, and again for us, it's billed quarterly. So I think ours averages $19 a month, which includes street sweeping. I know there's some issues with street sweeping, but that is included. So we're 3rd lowest. So I really don't know what to say with that, but it's comparatively, it feels like it's a decent rate to me, and obviously that's negotiated through the contractual process.
Okay, very good. Thank you. Mayor Pro-Tem Barrios, are you supportive of the return of the Paseo, and if so, in what form?
So we had a lot of questions about this. So if for those of you who follow the city council, this was actually on the agenda 2 meetings ago. So, which kind of came out of the clear blue sky, and here it was again. It's like, oh no, we're going to have this conversation again. I know a lot of people enjoyed it. I certainly enjoyed it in the first couple of months, but when we went to a year and 18 months, it was well out of hand at that point. It's just way too much and way too much diversion into the residential streets. So my answer would be, in a very limited capacity, I might entertain that idea. But when it came back, when staff brought it back to ask direction from the council was pretty unanimous and like, yeah, we don't want to talk about this right now. So I think it's, maybe some future date.
Okay, very good. Back to our Chapman representative. We talked about this earlier, but you mentioned about your housing. We want to thank the Chapman University for the construction of Cape Residence, Chapman Grand, and now the Chapman Court. Do you have any idea as to when the university might start construction on the new Panther Village?
Yeah, so last year when I was here, I talked about some of the student housing options that we were debating, Panther Village 2 being one of them. Panther Village is the property just down Chapman by the 5 freeway. And there's an opportunity there to further develop the land to really enhance the space and create more student beds at that facility. So while we were considering that option, we actually purchased Chapman Court instead, which allowed students to actually move in a year before they would have been able to at the Panther Village property. So because this funding was used for Chapman Court, I can tell you in the near future, Panther Village 2 won't be online just because, obviously student housing is a revenue generator and we need to start recouping some of those funds from the borrowed money that we took for the Chapman Court property. I can definitely share that it's a priority for the university to develop that property in the future, but not in the near future right now.
Okay, very good. Mayor Slater. Does the city have a plan now to rezone the Barrio area and then that would track to R1 to bring it into compliance with our general plan?
So I've already looked into that, and the background basically is when the city last did a general plan update over 10 years ago, those areas were placed in the general plan as R1. Unfortunately, the zoning was never brought into compliance with the plan, and we're out of compliance. So I have asked the city attorney how we can finally fix this, and she said, again, the state in all their wisdom has said we cannot downzone any properties because we need all this housing. However, she did tell me what an option would be, and I want to pursue that, and that is. As developers come forward and they change the zoning on, let's say, commercial and industrial land to residential, we can see how many undeveloped properties are in Old Towne and transfer those development rights to these new areas. And so it is my goal to do that so that we can finally get the rest of Old Towne to R1.
Okay, that would be wonderful. It's a concern of a lot of people in Old Towne. The ADUs are one thing. This is, of course, another part of that whole story.
And that would prevent the situation we just had on the 500 block of South Grand from repeating itself all over the place.
Right. That's one of the things that OTPA would like to get the city to look at is the cumulative effect of what happens in Old Towne. As we've mentioned before, many of the houses in Old Towne on their own do not reach the level of being National Register properties, but it's the collection that makes this district so significant, and so therefore we need to look at it as a collection when we make those decisions.
If I could say, because we have two of them sitting right here who are going to be a game changer, I believe, for us, is two of our new planning commissioners, Shannon Tucker and Frank. So it's just going to be amazing to me to and this was something I thought when I got here. I am so grateful to our mayor who immediately saw the issue with our boards and commission, but particularly our planning commission, who up until 2 months ago met more than the city council. But they're the first stop and the major stop for people to, start new plans, whether it's new housing developments or commercial developments. But, it's been a long time since we've had anyone from Old Towne on the planning commission, and specifically preservationists. People with that background, with that eye, and can look at those things the way OTPA would look at them. So I'm sorry, Tim, I apologize. I was looking at Frank and Tim McCormick is my planning commissioner, so I'm very excited that he accepted. And we have 2 other brand new planning commissioners too. So that's going to completely change how those decisions are made, the conversations that are had. When they're all up on this dais, it's going to be a big, big change and a shift for how we look at those projects and people who will look for those cumulative effects.
Thank you for that. Next question is for Chief Adams. And I want to preface it by saying that I want you to understand that many of us believe that Chapman University is a great asset to the community, but they are also a big part of our community, and sometimes we have problems. So I'd like to know from the chief, can you explain what the police department's procedure is when Chapman parties are called in as being out of control, and are you working with the university on these?
Yeah, so let me start with just a little historical on parties in itself, just so everybody gets a clear understanding. In 2022, we had 1,145 party calls throughout the entire city. Of those parties, 196 were Chapman University related, which is only, I don't know how, a very low percentage of our party calls. And it's actually a decrease, tell me if I'm wrong on these numbers, I think I'm right. It's actually a decrease of 29% of Chapman party calls from 2021. So I preface this, my answer to your question with we've had success. Still, party call, I mean, again, we all live in Orange. Any party that disturbs your peace and bothers you is a problem. And we all know, and we've all heard the stories of, and some of you probably live next door or down the street from one of these houses that has a lot of people living in it. So we gauge our response based on the amount of calls, and when we get there, whether we determine that the party's loud or unruly versus just some people in the jacuzzi or just some people in the backyard. And that determines, so the officer basically makes the determination whether we issue them a warning, we issue them a citation, we use our Orange Municipal Code citation system, and then we can actually close the party depending on how big it is, how loud and unruly it is, and then we can actually charge the people who are hosting the party. Eventually, it goes through, I don't know if it's still through the water bill or through the city, where they get charged for our services. So however many police, they get charged for police cars, police officers, the gas to get there, the time away from doing other things, and all that gets incorporated into one big bill. The problem we saw many years ago when big parties started happening is they were collecting ticket fees. So assuming they were going to get a ticket, am I giving away bad secrets?
We're entrepreneurial.
Assuming the cops were going to come and give them a ticket for the party, they collected money up front so that they could just have it to pay. So we determined that was a problem, and that's probably what created our relationship with Chapman. That we felt the need, and I don't remember because I wasn't the chief if you guys initiated that or if it was a collaborative effort for all of us to get together and do it. Where now we, not only are we on the enforcement arm side, but we're also on the, let's make sure that Chapman students are good neighbors. And it's a work in progress. I've heard some great stories about neighbors who go over and say, hey, how can we be better neighbors? And they have good conversation and maybe, share a soda or something. And I've heard other ones who are just like, I'm fed up, I'm not talking to them, I don't even care, I just want you to come over and write them tickets and make them move. So what we do is work with Chapman. We have a liaison at the police department that goes out and visits houses with, you can probably expand more on this because I think you actually go too with our employee who goes out and tries to take care of the issues so that they don't continue. And we know we've had, obviously everybody in here probably knows about the houses on Cambridge. And those are, we've actually talked about, looking at nuisance possibilities going forward through the city attorney's office. But I'd say the number of parties has decreased over the years, and probably most likely because of our relationship, the police department's relationship with Chapman. And I know Mayor Pro-TEM got involved in the liaison stuff a little bit when we were having some significant problems. So ALISA can probably tag on to that.
Yeah, I think the overall decrease in loud and unruly parties is encouraging for two reasons, and one of them is the strong responses from OPD as well as Chapman. So in addition to all of the lovely fines that students can accrue from the city, we actually have processes in place to address student conduct issues at the university. So upon a first offense, they have to go through a good neighbor training, which I kind of liken to traffic school, where they have to sit through hours of policies and learning about the neighborhood. Upon a second offense, it will be a $400 to $800 fine that's placed on their student bills, so parents are sort of notified in that way. And then even in the most severe of circumstances, there could be a separation from campus. So these processes are all in place. So I think combined, this effort has been really successful. And then kind of building off of what the chief was saying, our community liaison program is a really fantastic program that's been very, very successful. So we have a sergeant with the Orange PD, a sergeant in our public safety department, as well as our community relations manager, who will go out after a party happens, you know, when everyone is sober, it's daylight outside, you know, we're all on good terms, and really set clear expectations about student misconduct in the community and make sure that they're aware that if they continue to, you know, violate whatever code or law that may be, what consequences can occur both from the city side and the university side. So I think that that's a really fantastic partnership. But I think it's also important kind of wrapping in the ADU situation and the continual offenses that we have. I think it's important to note that many Chapman-related calls involved impacts from just the number of folks living within a house rather than an actual loud and unruly party. And unfortunately, you know, it's a clash of different lifestyles that occurs. So one of the things that we're really encouraging our students to do is to be proactive. And I know this is a continual educational reinforcement here, but really trying to set the tone early on and have a good, solid relationship with their neighbors. And we really encourage our neighbors to approach students as well. We find that, you know, if you're able to set the tone at the beginning and exchange contact information, you know, talk about being a good neighbor, it doesn't have to escalate to a call to chiefs, you know, obviously the Orange PD or the city. So that's something that we're hoping, you know, we can encourage as well.
The other point on that is like what the city manager said. You know, the ADUs and the other, you know, the housing. It's a business, so there's turnover. So every year or every 2 years, maybe every 4 years, we have educated the students, and then we get a new batch of students. So this year, for the first time, I made a video, and they played it on a big screen. I don't know how many people paid attention, or I thought it was a pretty cool video. And it was a little threatening from me, basically, that said, you know, if you commit crimes and you violate our ordinances, we're going to arrest you. We're going to write you tickets. We're going to follow the rules. And I think at the end it was follow the rules and be good neighbors. That's all we're asking. And I don't know if that helped, but hopefully they can play that video every year.
It's required viewing for freshman orientation.
Required viewing. And a book signing. I haven't written a book, but.
I'd like to add too that I appreciate Chapman stepping up to the plate on this. I think you really have been, and I appreciate the police department working with you as well. But I also want to let you know that early on I met with President Daniele Strupa and their Dean of Students, and I brought up the problem with rowdy Chapman houses. And to their credit, they said, throw the book at them. We don't care. Make the city peaceful and make the students behave. So I said, thank you. That's all I needed to hear. And so, at any rate, I think that we're moving in the right direction. And by all means, and ALISA will agree, because she's told me this, if you are disturbed by any parties, especially rowdy Chapman students, after 10 p.m., call the police. They love to come out and bust these parties. So don't be hesitant. Call the police. They would love to come out.
And it's just a shame that I just saw Leslie leave, because I have incentivized the chief that if he could do that and get rid of the undie run, I will personally send them on a cruise out of my own pocketbook. So if you
That's
can
a
get
challenge.
that, yeah, it is a challenge, but if you could figure out a way, cruise you will. So
I did make an effort on the undie run. So.
Well, for my own part, I take the education seriously of the kids in our neighborhood, and I take every opportunity to educate them on how to be good neighbors. So it's important to all of Old Town and again, Chapman University is doing their part of it. And I've had some conversations with the people that are involved there with their student behavioral group, or whatever you want to call it. And I think that they're really stepping up to it. I think we have time for one more question, and I'd like to pose this one to Mayor Slater. Do you think that Orange should pursue becoming a certified local government?
From what I know about that, I absolutely do. There's a lot of benefits to that I think it would really help Old Towne. Unfortunately, I don't know enough about it to elaborate on it, but from what I have heard, and I know that that's something that your Old Towne Preservation Association desires, I think the city should look into it, and it's something that we should possibly pursue. I know it's not a very clear answer, but I am in favor of at least exploring it.
Well, we're just in the beginning processes of looking into it. Do you think that from what you can tell now, do you think that the council will be supportive of it?
I don't know. So far we're working together. We've made a lot of progress. We're, for the most part, on the same page. So I would say that there is a good chance of that, as long as it doesn't cost money. And I know that our city manager would love to hear that, because we're going through the budget process right now, and and things are tight, quite frankly. So if this is something that can support itself more or less, then I don't know what could be wrong with it.
Okay, very good. Well, I want to thank all of you for participating in our forum and giving us such great answers and educating us on the city's activities. In closing, Old Towne Preservation Association would like to thank the city for our use of the council chambers for this event. And we would like to thank Channel 6 for airing the forum. Old Towne Preservation Association for 37 years has pursued the preservation, protection, and enhancement of the Old Town. But none of that would be possible without the support of our membership and the citizens of the City of Orange. So I want to thank you all for coming, and I hope you have a pleasant evening. Thank you.